Greetings, that's me with a virus, but I can still talk. And I'm going to do a little of that right now. Yes, it's me, Wolf Alexander, host of my fabulous podcast known as Multiple Personalities. And, oh boy. In some sense, we as a species are some of the saddest, stupidest, most ignorant, most wonderful creatures known on the planet. Sometimes our animals are actually more competent than we are, by far, and better stewards of the land than we have ever been. Because we, from the very beginning, have been under the thumb of a non-reality based system created by extraterrestrial beings in some cases and by ourselves, a self-perpetuating prison planet, with us as the ignorant slaves of this system, meant to be experimented with, meant to be used and abused, meant for work, not for freedom. Always a system of control versus freedom. And control has what has won out here in general. Bursts of freedom happen regardless, in spite of it all, because there is something in those of us known as conscious beings that desires freedom and despises control for no reason other than to serve people who only serve themselves, or creatures who only serve themselves. It is a terrible tale, actually, and is filled with pain and suffering, purposeful and on purpose by the wardens who run this place, and then by the fools who maintain it with or without knowledge of the reality, because it suits them, because they are generally criminals, and generally thieves, generally broken toys, pathological, in many cases psychotic, in some cases schizophrenic, and every type of dysfunction, running this world for hundreds of thousands of years, or perhaps longer. I'm not quite sure how old it is, but how old civilizations are here. There are also civilizations quite clearly remotely viewed by McMonigal, hired by the CIA, basically, to remote view and viewed the structures on Mars of a dying civilization, gigantic pyramid-type buildings with sleeping chambers, that is to say, suspended animation-type cryo chambers or something of that sort, filled with the remaining individuals, with the hopes that someday they could be revived and they could be living in a viable planet. Since Mars was no longer viable, it was dying. They sent some people left there in the ship, but of course everybody couldn't go. And no doubt some of them could have ended up here at some point in time, not known. a long time ago, very long time ago. So, people like Nikola Tesla and various alchemists and gurus and spiritually awakened in consciousnesses here on this planet have understood what was really happening and have been silenced. And Nikola Tesla was certainly one of them, and had equipment, ideas, and inventions which he believed could end war forever, and of course that could not be allowed. The stuff was confiscated when he died. 2 truckloads worth, apparently, which has just recently shown up here on YouTube. And it's just so sad, in a way, how little we have understood of what we are and what's going on here and for what purpose. And purpose is actually just has nothing to do with anything about us, really. It has everything to do with those who have controlled this place, their own agenda. They don't care about our agenda, if we have any or had any. They don't care what we do, really. You can sort of do what you feel like, as long as you don't try to bust loose and bust out of the prison with any success. Of course, some do, and probably some have. And they're apparently, according to Farsight.org and Dr. Courtney Brown and his wonderful young remote viewers, there are good ETs who would like to help us out and do help us out, and bad ones who've been messing with us forever and want to continue to do so. All of this is together. All of this is actually happening, and nobody knows, really. I mean, most people just, oh, that's ridiculous. None of that's true. It's all just fictional nonsense, and ETs aren't real, and this all benefits those who are in control to begin with. And the stupid people who benefit, with earthly wealth, materialistic fools who just, they think that that's the greatest thing, is to be in charge of this. They become like, what do they call them in the trustees? They're like the trustees. They get a little more power, better food, better, better shelter, this and that, power over the rest of the prisoners. And look, I don't ask anybody to believe what I'm saying is true. Find out for yourselves, This is just information compiled not by me, but my own collection of what has been compiled by others who know and have known and understand exactly what has been going on here. Find out for yourself. Think it through. We're in a mess. We're in stupidity. And there are people who are objectively stupid here because they've been made to be stupid. They are deliberately created to be stupid, and they are stupid. There's no talking them through these things. They have to figure it out for themselves if they ever do. And I have no hatred for them. And I've come to realize no hatred for any of these poor bastards, including the present crop of idiots currently running our government here in the US of A, the so-called United States. Not so united, but in any case, I don't even despise them. I have been very angry with them on occasion because I think they're just horrible people, but we all have the traits of good and bad and everything in between. All of us, every single one of us, has these possibilities, and some just can't resist it. And so I don't hate them. I don't hate Donald Trump or even Stephen Goebbels Miller and J.D. Vance and Kristi Noem and all of these special needs people who are just really, in so many ways, so sad. So that's kind of what's going on, and it would be good, I think, if everybody sort of got to understand that this is really a very strange and complicated place, which most of us have very little understanding of how and why, where we came from, and so forth. I like the story of the Anunnaki. It's a pretty good story. And how they ran this planet in order to mine the planet for things they needed for their own purposes. And were like gods to us. And one of them broke the rules and evolved us into full consciousness, and that was against the rules, and they tried to wipe us out with a gigantic flood, but the same rebel saved us, and here we are. We're still here. We exist. We still have some form of intelligence. So it's all a pretty incredible story. And I think people should be interested in it and should try to figure it out, each one of us, to figure out what is real and what isn't. It's up to you to be a skeptical inquirer, to do a deep dive into things that you really want to know about, and look for factual information, which can be proven over and over again by different people in different locations at different times with the same results. That's good science. And I think you ought to try. You ought to figure it out. It's worth it, just to have the freedom of knowing that freedom is possible, that real freedom, that we as a creative entity, as a creative consciousness, can just go anywhere, do anything without doing any harm to anything or anybody, that we can evolve into a loving and wonderful species of consciousness, which I now believe consciousness is a function of the cosmos. It is the observer and the observed. It is the creator and the created, all at the same time. What you see and hear in our interpretation of materialistic reality is not what's actually there, and not what actually everything is. And so I think it'd be worth it for all of us to understand how it really works. It'd be a lot of fun. We could have a great time instead of this nonsense and the death and destruction and the pain and suffering that we are forced into over and over and over again as we get recycled. Not by a choice to recycle here. You get recycled here by the wardens. And it's so sad and so unfair. So, freedom, freedom, freedom. Much love. Think it through.